I'm not going to have a meltdown because it could have been worse. That was a joke. It's not the time for jokes. That was the worst display that I've seen out of a Nebraska football team, honestly, since the Scott Frost era. And before that, since Nebraska went to Wisconsin back in whatever it was, 2014, and got run out of the stadium as a top 25 team. Similar expectations with that team as to what we had for this one. And this whole entire week, the talk has been Indiana's got a first year coach. They've got a bunch of players who weren't built for the Big Ten. They came from other schools like James Madison, Ohio, and places where they can't recruit to the level that Nebraska or other Big Ten programs can. And then today, they went out there and they totally embarrassed themselves. The coaches embarrassed themselves. The players embarrassed themselves. It was execution errors. It was getting out coached, getting out schemed. Indiana deserves all the respect in the world. And so before I say anything about Nebraska, because we all have complaints about what Nebraska looked like, how they played, we have to be honest in the fact that Indiana is a legit team. And I don't know what level they are, if they're an elite program, like the elite level that Oregon or Ohio State are, but they're pretty damn close based on what we saw today. Now, the flip side is you could say, well, no. Nebraska is just as bad as the other teams that Indiana has faced. And the reason that Indiana's strength of schedule is so terrible, Nebraska is Northwestern, Nebraska is Wisconsin, Nebraska is one of these average to below average teams in the Big Ten who at best can win seven games, and they should be appreciative of that. So props to Indiana. I don't know how far they're going to go. That team looked legit. They clicked on all cylinders. They have a really good coach, a really good quarterback. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I was right in my predictions all week that Indiana was a team who, Nebraska should beat. Nebraska had no business playing on the same field as that team. And the unfortunate, harsh truth is Nebraska doesn't deserve to be on the field with teams like Ohio State, Indiana, even Illinois at this point. They are in position to where they can beat UCLA's. They can maybe beat a Wisconsin or get lucky with an Iowa, but they are in rebuild year 2, and it's going to take time until we can really go out there and consider this team a contender in a game against a team that has their shit together. I think that's the best way to start this off. I don't want to sound like Indiana's not a good team and Nebraska's just terrible. Indiana's a really good football team. Now moving on to my thoughts on Nebraska. It starts with the coaching, right? You felt like Matt Rule's whole attitude and his whole demeanor coming into this season was we're going to be more physical, we're going to be on top of things, and we're going to make sure that we can go out there and not get embarrassed the way that they did against Michigan last season when we watched them get run out of their own stadium. And I thought, the lesson that they learned, the lesson that these seniors and a lot of these players, Nebraska is filled with players who were on that team from last year. The lesson they learned in that Michigan game is that they will never get out physical, and that they will always show up, give their best, and they won't get dominated by players who are equally talented, equal in terms of size and speed, and they'll always be in it. They'll always put up a fight. And today, they got mauled at every single level. The receivers couldn't get open, and I don't know if that was all the receivers, if there were some weird play calls. The quarterback couldn't find anyone downfield. I don't know if you need to say, Rola, it's time to start running, or it's time to start burning the ball quicker. I don't know what the deal is. But from a receiver quarterback standpoint, Nebraska does not look like they're clicking at all. Running game, offensive line, the duo there is morbid. They rushed for a total of 70 yards. Heinrich Haarburg led with 32 rush yards, which all came in like the fourth quarter. Dowdell and Johnson combined for 40. How can Nebraska think they're going to win games in the Big Ten rushing for 40 yards a game? It's abysmal. The biggest issue, though, don't worry about the offense, because that's not what Nebraska hangs their hat on. It's all about the D. The vaunted black shirts. I think someone said last night, they threw up a chat, and they said, or 2 nights ago when we were talking to Jim, they said, Connor, ask him about death row and Nebraska's D-line and how he feels about them. And Jim's like, I'm not worried at all. He's like, Nebraska's D-line, that's not a concern. And today, he was right. Nebraska's D-line didn't do shit. Nebraska goes 6 deep. They have multiple players there who've been exceptional, at least against really trash teams, the way that I thought Indiana looked against these teams they played before Nebraska. And I didn't think Nebraska's performances warranted us to judge the defensive line and say that they were suspect. I thought those performances actually said, they've played some weaker competition, but even when they do go up against a top 25 team like IU, they're going to be able to show up and make an impact in some way. They were totally ineffective. Just look at the stats, okay? Nebraska had 1 sack They had 4 tackles for loss. Pretty sure those all came later. And IU was able to get pressure the entire day on Rola. Nebraska, who can recruit top-level talent and has been able to over these past few years, got worked by a bunch of transfers from James Madison, Ohio, and a bunch of guys who were, I think, 3 stars or lower at Indiana. What it really tells you is Curt Cignetti is a solid coach, and it raises the question about Matt Rhule's coaching staff. And I know I've been on Satterfield's defense for a long time, and I haven't questioned Garrett McGuire. I have now recently questioned Ed Foley, but does Nebraska have all of the right guys in place? I think that is something we have to ask ourselves. And I think a lot of people are going to say, obviously, Connor, Satterfield, this, that, whatever. But up until today, I felt like Nebraska was competitive, and I felt like a lot of the player execution errors were what held them back. Today, I don't know, though. Today, they got outcoached in every single way. So very frustrating to watch. And I'm not miserable. I'm not like John, how he's been in his past videos where he goes to the bathroom and loses his mind, because this wasn't a close game. It was over at halftime. I got on Twitter and did a Twitter Spaces, and I gave my thoughts. It felt like Nebraska just didn't show up today. And the most unfortunate part about that is they had an entire week off. They had an entire bye to recognize and acknowledge, here are our flaws, here is where we have to improve, and here's what we're going to do to get better. Not only that, they had the opportunity to think and reflect on what's happened so far, where they can go going forward. Most importantly, that they are going to go into a ruckus environment with a team who's top 16 in the nation, who's shown that they have a top offense and a top defense, even though we thought they were still suspect. They were still a really good offense and defense, no matter how you were going to prepare for them. And Nebraska came out flat. And there was the opening play for Nebraska that really set the tone and made you think this is going to be a long fucking day, was when Ja'Cory Barney caught the ball at the 1-yard line and ran it out of bounds. It was like, really? That's how we're going to start things off on the road when you're down a touchdown? That's the opener? That's the type of energy that gets you run out of a stadium. And I thought, but that's okay. They're not going to get run out of the stadium. There's no way IU comes in and dominates 56-7. That's not going to happen. This isn't Michigan of last year. This isn't the same Nebraska team we saw last season. And they proceeded to do exactly that. They got marched on up and down the field by Curtis Rourke all throughout the first half. And then in the second half, when Curtis Rourke went out, a time when Nebraska would have the opportunity to capitalize, because then you say, well, they don't have the best player on the field. Maybe you can shake things up with Taven Jackson being there. But no, Taven Jackson came in, and he threw 7 of 8 for 91 yards, 2 TDs, ran for another 21, and exposed Nebraska's starting defense. Yeah, it was a tough day, to say the least. Scott, thank you for the $10 super chat. IU has the better roster, sadly. Wide receivers still can't block. Special teams is still horrible. Sat can't play call. Outcoached in every phase. Enjoy it, IU, because Sig will be gone next year to the SEC. I'm not going to talk too much about Sig and what I think his future is. I don't think that he is going to the SEC. I think he's staying at IU, but not going to get down that road. IU has a really good roster. They have a roster full of winners, and I think that's what a lot of people overlook. You say, well, how are those recruits coming out of high school? Where did they rank? What's the size? What's the speed? None of that matters. What matters is, what's their mentality? What do they do when the pressure's on? How do they perform when it matters the most? Nebraska has Dante Dowdell, a 4-star running back, went to Oregon, big body, NFL type of back. They get into the red zone. Dowdell picks up the first down. Oh, fumble. Big-time players make big-time plays in big games. IU has a smaller back who might not be as fast, but it doesn't matter. He wasn't recruited to the same level. It doesn't matter. He makes plays when it matters the most, right? So what you overlook is, well, Nebraska may have guys who are recruited to a higher level, but they don't have punishers. They don't have winners. And that's just the unfortunate truth of where Nebraska's at. I get all these DMs and people say, well, where do we go from here? What's the Matt Rhule era going to look like? You know, what do we do about all these coaches and all these players? Okay, here's the reality. This is a rebuild. Nebraska, as much as we wanted more, was meant to win 7 games this year. That's what we heard in the beginning. That's what Vegas pegged it at, and they're on track for it right now. They're 5-2. Still, the world in front of them to get to their expectation of 7, maybe even 8. Now, I'm not predicting 8 wins right now. I'm barely even predicting 7. UCLA looked good today. So did Wisconsin. So, yeah, it's a tough slate from here on out, let me tell you, especially with the team morale the way it is. I'm not kidding you. Raiola's got to be looking in the mirror like, God damn, I cannot do everything on my own. And Raiola wasn't perfect, but it felt like in the beginning of the game, he had a pretty solid stat line, and he was doing his part. And he wasn't given any favors. The offensive line didn't help enough to pave a path for the run game. The coaches didn't do enough to get the receivers open. IU has a lot of talent, and yeah, Nebraska couldn't match. I'm gonna get to all the super chats. I'm not gonna miss them today. I know in the past I've missed some super chats, and I hate doing that. Starting at the top. Ardwin, thank you for being a member for 2 years. He says 2 years, unfortunate timing, but love all you do. 2 years. Nebraska has had a coach in year 2, or you're saying 2 years for yourself. I'm saying Nebraska's had a coach who's in year 2. You started following our channel when he first took over. There, you started becoming a Corn Craze Army member at that point, right? I want you to think about this, Ardwin. 2 years ago when Matt Rule first took over, what was the leash? What was the timeline? And what was the expectation for him to be able to get Nebraska back to winning games like this? I don't think that you, me, or anyone else thought it was going to take, a year and a half. By game, whatever this is. This is game 7. That would be game 19. Nebraska was going to be competing for championships, right? So if you go back to when you first became a member and you go back to what your expectation was, I would hope you would say, although things have not gone our way so far, this is a rebuild and Nebraska has a chance to grow from here. I think that's the message I want to relay the most, because all the messages I get on Twitter, on Instagram, I get overwhelmed, man. I get so many. I'm looking through them right now. People are saying, Connor, what's next? Connor, how could things go this far left? And the reality is, it's a rebuild, and Nebraska's not meant to win right now. It's really fucking tough, man. I try to respond to all your messages, though, by the way, on Twitter and Instagram and everything else, but it's overwhelming for me. And I can't respond to everything individually because I don't have the answers myself. It's like, yeah, I want to win right now, too, and I have expectations that are bigger than what we thought they were going to be before this year, because we now have seen Nebraska can be competitive, or at least we did in those first 6 games. And when things aren't going our way now, at the halfway point and they're playing against better competition, it's really frustrating to have to go and revert back to those original expectations and say, well, okay, we got overhyped about this team after they beat Colorado. We believed too much after they lost to Illinois and thought Illinois was a better team than they actually are. And yeah, Nebraska's just not meant to be the team we thought they were going to this year. It's hard. It's tough. Doug, thank you for the $20 super chat. Rule is too nice to do anything drastic like coaching changes mid-season. I don't think that coaching changes mid-season would help Nebraska in any way, so I don't support that. If anyone wants to know about my coaching change philosophy, it's 100% at the very end, unless you're talking about like the Scott Frost situation where things have just gone completely left and things are not going to work out. The second part to this, which it's a tough one, but I do agree with it. All black, meaning black shirts. All black shirts should be stripped for the season or until they defend against a good opponent. I do believe Nebraska's defense needs to be, I don't want to use the word punished, but I think the standard has to be set. And Nebraska's standard is not being met right now. So it's time to take away the black shirts. And like I said to the last comment to Ardwin, Nebraska's in year 2 of a rebuild. It's okay that Nebraska's not in position to hand out black shirts yet. Maybe it was going to be 3 years before they were ready to consistently wear black shirts. But I don't believe that you make the standard beating up on Northern Iowa, beating up on UTEP, and beating up on Colorado or whatever other weak teams that you could get thrown into the pile. The standard has to be when you play in the Big Ten, you look good, you don't allow points to the level that they did today, 56 to be precise. I don't even like saying it out loud. But you don't allow crazy amounts of points. And then at that point, we can now reward black shirts, because the black shirt standard that was set back in the 90s is not being met. And it's embarrassing, honestly. It's embarrassing to hype our team up and to say this is a vaunted defense and then to watch them go out and stay the way they did. I mean, you as a fan, you have the exact same experience as me, Doug. I know you do. Your friends text you and they say, what the hell is going on? And the reason that they're so surprised isn't because it's Nebraska. Because for the last 10 years, Nebraska has been a bit of a mess, and losing games and losing the top 25 teams has become the norm. The problem is the hype they hear around them. Fox and all of these other networks saying, oh my God, Nebraska's got the 5-star quarterback. Oh my God, Nebraska's got the number 12 defense in the nation. Oh my God, Nebraska's got multiple NFL caliber players on defense. You hear all this outside noise, not you, but your friends do. And then they text you and say, what the hell? I've been hearing that Nebraska's dominant for the past however many weeks since the season started, and it doesn't look very dominant. So yeah, take away the black shirts. Let's reset expectations, and let's just acknowledge that Nebraska's not in a position where they could be rewarded for anything right now. Rod, Thank you for being a member. He says, I'm mad, or I might be mad, but I still love this channel. Rod, thank you a ton for all the support you do for the channel, by the way. You're always here. You're always supportive. You're the man. Twevin, thank you for the $5 super chat. I didn't think we were going to win, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Defense looked like headless chickens out there. Defense was out of position. Defense didn't know what was going on. They didn't know how to tackle. It was reminiscent of the Wisconsin game from 2014. I posted this picture on Twitter. I'll pull it up. I posted this picture on Twitter because I was at that Wisconsin game back in 2014 when Melvin Gordon ran wild. Melvin Gordon had Nebraska, I think it was in the fourth quarter. He had Nebraska basically just chasing him down from behind the entire time. And all of the pictures that went up after the game were him running free and, yeah, making Nebraska just look silly. And here's a prime photo. This is the one I posted up. And today's game felt like this. It didn't feel like it just because they were running the ball down their throat. It felt like it because Nebraska was in a position to win that game. They were in a position where they had a good team. They went to Wisconsin. I mean, the game actually started pretty good that year. I remember Nebraska was in it in the first quarter. And then the wheels fell off. Everything went to shit, and it was a complete rout. This picture defined what we witnessed today in the same uniforms. And I don't think the white uniforms had anything to do with Nebraska losing today. The people saying, oh, we shouldn't wear the white uniforms because they have a history of losing, that's all nonsense. I don't care what uniforms they wear. Nebraska should be able to go out there and be successful no matter what they're wearing. Senor Chief, he says, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you for being a member. He says, Nebraska will not win a top 25 game with Matt Rule. Well, that's ridiculous. I can't make ridiculous claims. I can be realistic and say that Nebraska is very unlikely to win a top 25 game this year. I 100% agree with that statement. If Iowa is ranked in the top 25, I think the pressure being in Iowa City would be too much and it'd be very unlikely they would win that game. I obviously do not think Nebraska will be able to win next week. What's so crazy is I knew today was coming. I knew this was going to happen. But I didn't know it was going to happen this week. I felt like this was what was going to happen next week. I thought Nebraska's going to play IU tough. They're either going to win or they're going to lose close, like by 3-4. And in that case, I thought, they're going to go to Ohio State next week and they're going to get blown out because obviously going back to back on the road against top 25 teams is a really tough task. So I expected this score, but I didn't expect it in Bloomington. That's the harsh thing, Evan, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $20 super chat. He says, can we stop playing Fox Big Noon games? Seems like we always come out flat during them. Credit Indiana. They could be a playoff team. Maybe it's time to have a serious conversation about some of our coaching staff, GBR for life. And I think that's the truth, dude. Ed Foley is, in my opinion, I do not believe he will be at Nebraska next year, or Nebraska will go out and do something to supplement his coaching. That's the first thing. Satterfield. I don't know what the answer is with Satterfield. And people talk about, God, I don't even like to say this, okay? But it is something that gets brought up, and I have to address it. People always ask me, what's going to happen with Rola if Nebraska has a terrible season and Satterfield doesn't get it together? Will he stay at Nebraska? There's a world, because Georgia is obviously recruiting him still. You go look at Georgia's situation. They're going to need a quarterback, and I'm sure there are other teams tampering. Matt Rule has talked about in his press conferences that players are getting tampered with, and he would be the one on the top of the list who's getting the biggest offers, okay? So Rola will forever be being recruited out of Nebraska, okay? Is there a world where he would ever leave? Yeah. If Nebraska doesn't show signs of getting better, number one, or they show signs of neglect, and they say, we're not going to go and fix our issues. And if at the end of the season, Rola or his family feel like, this offensive staff needs a shakeup, they better make it. They better make a change. Otherwise, he'll have a reason to leave Nebraska, right? So I'm not trying to put anything out there, put any negative energy there, but the harsh reality is he's going to be one of the most recruited players in the country come December. So Nebraska better either, number one, fix their shit, number two, show signs of life and show that things are trending in the right direction, or number three, make a change where it matters. So I'm not calling for anybody's head. It's early on, and it's above my pay grade. I'm here to talk and entertain. I'm not here to tell you whether or not Satterfield should be fired or if Garrett McGuire is the right receivers coach. I can tell you what's not working and what looks terrible and what has to be fixed. I just don't know what the proper solution is. Matt Rule is paid like, $80 million to go and figure that out. So hopefully he does a good job in doing that, because Scott Frost didn't. And eventually it cost Scott Frost his job. Eventually it caught up to him when he didn't have the right guys in the room. So we're going to see. Coaching staff changes, though. I would not be surprised if we see something this offseason. Hardwin, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I haven't turned off a game since the Riley era. This one was off before halftime. I was really hoping for at minimum a 27-24 loss. Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I'm trying to think at what happened before halftime. Yeah, it was 28-7 at halftime. I totally respect it. You can't watch shitty football for what's it been 9 years and just continue to punish yourself. So, Ardwin, I'm appreciative of you still tapping into our show and talking about the game with us, but I totally understand not wanting to put yourself through the brain damage. I was borderline ready to turn the game off against Purdue. So I get it. When you watch something happen so many times before, and it's so ugly and despicable, you can't subject yourself to it. So I hope you had a good day outside of that, Ardwin. I hope you have some other hobbies that keep you positive, and I hope that you're not too stressed out after this loss, because it is what it is. It's out of your control. Minnie, thank you for being a member. Thank you for being a moderator. She says, why does Signetti pull this off in his first year? Makes me wonder what we are doing. I'll tell you, Minnie, it's this simple. Signetti is a great coach with a very good staff who came over from a winning program, paired with a bunch of really good players who he was able to recruit who have had prior winning success. And I said that at the beginning of this stream. Nebraska has a bunch of players who, although they are highly recruited and although they have done some good things, they are not proven winners. They are not established players. They have not been in championship level games, or they have not won them at least. And Indiana has. Elijah Surratt today had a bunch of big catches. I think he had, let's see what Elijah Surratt did to Nebraska. Surratt had 3 catches for 65 yards and a TD, and they were 3 amazing catches. Surratt was a 1,100-yard receiver last year, James Madison. So Nebraska doesn't have guys like that who are exceptional, who have came over and already shown that they can win in big games like this. James Madison was that, and Indiana is just a reflection. Petty, thank you for the $10 super chat. Priority number 1 this offseason is to get a legit wide receiver for Dylan. If he's going to hit his potential, he needs some help outside. Nebraska has some good receivers, but they don't have any great receivers. And I don't know if I can blame the receivers. You had Isaiah Nayor, you had Jamal Banks. This is where the harsh truth sets in, okay? All right, you guys want a harsh truth? Here's the harsh truth. Nebraska has a guy who went for over 700 yards back-to-back years at Wake Forest. Maybe it's like 600 and 700 in Jamal Banks. Nebraska has Thomas Fidone, who's a former 4-star tight end, borderline 5-star, who actually had a really freaking good day. Shout out to Thomas Fidone, 6 catches, 91 yards, almost had a TD. He had a good day. They've got Isaiah Nayor, exceptional receiver who was from Wyoming and then Texas, comes to Nebraska. They've got Ja'Cory Barney, who's been awesome. At what point do you blame the coaches and the scheme and not the players? Because do you think all of those good wide receivers, all of those receivers, because this receivers room is stacked. Jalen Lloyd, Jamal Banks, Ja'Cory Barney, Isaiah Nayor, Thomas Fidone, Carter Nelson. They're a stacked room. Is it them? Are they all underperforming? Are they all just average receivers who can't find separation? Or is the play calling, is the scheme not right to help them win? Are they not getting separation because the play calls are too simple and teams are able to key in and they're able to stop it? They have a quarterback who's one of the best in the country. We know that naturally and tangibly. He's solid and he's good to go. He's going to complete his passes. For the most part, he does. Dylan threw for 200 and whatever it was, 35 yards today. Shout out to Dylan. I bet a lot of money today on Nebraska. I lost a lot on them. Thank God I matched it with a Dylan Raiola over passing yards, which saved my day. But Dylan is a really good QB. So if they've got good athletes at receiver and a good QB, what's going wrong? Got to blame somebody. I'm going to look at the coaches. So I don't know what Rhule's going to say about it. And that goes back to what I said before. I don't think coaching changes can come in the middle of the season because what's that going to do? However, I do think you're going to have to look in the mirror at the end and say, well, where did we struggle the most? And who's to blame for that? Because someone is to blame. The same way you get rewarded after big wins is the same way you need to take criticism after losses. Rod, thank you for the $10 super chat. I'm not here for anything, and I can say Satterfield needs to go. Well, let's follow up to what I just said. We're gonna have to see. Have to see how soon that happens. I don't believe that it would happen in the middle of the season, and that's the problem. No one important. Thank you for being a member. He says big changes need to happen, especially offensively. What is the change that could happen in the middle of the season? And I think that's the biggest frustration, Nebraska fans want change now. We want to see something tick up, and we're not going to see it. We're going to see the same struggles for the next, 5 games? We're going to see the same struggles for the next 5 games. And the team, or the side of the team who we would hang our hats on before, the defense, today they got exposed, and it doesn't give you a lot of confidence for what they can do against UCLA, Wisconsin, Iowa, especially Ohio State, especially USC. Doug, thank you for the $20 super chat. Part of me should make the hype videos stop until we have results. We can't be dominant if we don't raise the expectations after every game for all three aspects of the game. Ty Robinson is eating his words. We don't let him in. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about the raising the expectations deal. I don't know how you can raise your expectations when every single week it feels like Nebraska's regressing, you know? So raising expectations just seems a little ridiculous. I think you raise expectations when you do something right, and Nebraska's just constantly gone down. The trend has been ugly and gross. But yeah, I do agree with you. Ty Robinson's eating his words. What did he say this week? Did he say something specific to we're not letting him in the end zone? Because yeah, they punched it in 5 times. Nebraska hadn't allowed a rushing touchdown the entire season. Today they gave up 5 to IU, and they weren't like short yardage touchdowns. They were big break-off runs. It was an embarrassing day for the defense. Kyle, thank you for the $10 super chat. While we all thought Nebraska wasn't going to win right away, you see a team like Indiana who went 3-9 and 1-8 in the Big Ten last year, competing for championships right now with Sun Belt players. So here's a question. It's a hypothetical because it would never happen. But Nebraska, go back 2 years. Nebraska has the opportunity to go and hire a coach from a school where he can bring his players with him, or they have an opportunity to go and hire a coach like Matt Rule, who has a proven track record for success, but obviously won't have as much immediate because he doesn't have a team he can coach from. Do you rather take a coach like Signetti, a coach who comes from a smaller school, or do you try and get a coach like Matt Rule? I'll tell you what, Florida wishes that they would have gone with a coach like Matt Rule, because now Florida is paying the price and they've got a coach who is failing miserably coming from a group of 5. So I think it's tough. Indiana got really lucky. They hit the jackpot. They got a coach who came from a group of 5 school and who panned out and has been exceptional so far. That doesn't happen most of the time. A lot of this coaching stuff is just luck of the draw. You don't know which one's the best one. It's like a draft pick in the NFL, right? You go and pick Drake May versus Caleb Williams, and you hope one of them's going to pan out. But one could be a bust, and you're spending millions of dollars hoping that your guy works out, right? So it's frustrating, but Indiana won the lottery. That's just the truth here. Jim, thank you for the 666. He said, missed the start. Went to Costco for extra strength ibuprofen. They had a 2-for-1 sale, willing to share with others who need head relief. Yeah, it was a tough game to watch, Jim. I totally understand, brother. Dash Camera, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Hapless is the only word I have. I didn't have a lot of words during the game. I surprisingly sat there in silence most of the time and just accepted Nebraska's fate and just realized that the expectations that we had at the very beginning were probably a little bit more realistic to what we adjusted them to. And getting to a bowl game would be a feat for this team, especially given the way their offenses looked. It's frustrating that we got so excited and so optimistic after the first few weeks, thinking that they had a passing game and thinking they had a running game, that have just gone stagnant, not only against Indiana, but against the other couple teams they've played in Rutgers and Purdue. Minnie, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you for being a member, and thank you for being a mod. Nebraska Edits, thank you for the $20 super chat. Fire Sat, play Coleman, Barney, and Lloyd at recital. We the rest of the year. I'm misunderstanding the end of it. Sorry, Nebraska Edits. But I don't agree with playing Coleman. I think you got a redshirt Coleman. Nebraska's going to need receivers because Isaiah, Nayor, and Jamal Banks are leaving after this season. I think Coleman could be a big factor going forward. Yeah, the Sat thing, it's a conversation for the end of the year, in my opinion. I just don't think Nebraska can afford to fire Sat right now. You know, I don't think you can afford to have that much change. That just, to me, it doesn't do enough. Rod, I can't see, but it looks like you donated some memberships. I appreciate you for the support. Oh, there it is. Rod donated 50 Corn Craze memberships. You're the man. I appreciate it a ton. Did I get to this one? What was this? Shellin, I could be wrong, but I feel like they hold Raiola back with short yard passes. maybe nobody was open. I don't think they try to hold him back with short yard passes. I think he's held back by short yard passes because the receivers aren't getting open downfield. And I don't know if you're blaming the receivers for not creating separation or if you're blaming the play call for not getting them open. IU has plays that get their guys open. You see little motions. Guys come underneath. It confuses the DBs. Then a guy goes out into the flat. He's wide open for a TD. Nebraska never has those opportunities. They're constantly blanketed. Is it because the DBs are all NFL players on the other side of the ball? No. It's because the play call isn't good enough to get guys open in space. That's the harsh reality of our situation. Skurs News, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, what if this team finishes 5-7 again? Yes, it's on the table. It's on the table. It's really unlikely. If this team finishes 5-7, it's a bad year. I mean, that's going to be change. You know, you're going to see a lot of change. You're going to see right away offensive staff getting switched out. You're going to see Ed Foley gone. You're going to see, I don't know if you're going to see players hit the transfer portal, but it's going to be tough with recruiting. If Nebraska finishes 5-7, it's going to be a real problem. I'll tell you that. I don't believe they're going to finish 5-7. I don't even want to talk about it yet because the idea of that is so bad and what it would do to the program and how far it would set them back, at least where we thought they were at the beginning of the year. From where they were at the beginning of the year, it would be painful. Evan, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you for being a member. Assuming Nebraska's 5-3 after next week, could you rank the remaining 4 games from most likely to least likely to win? Yeah, so I think the most likely to win is going to be UCLA. That's a home game. UCLA is a tough team. They're getting better. But, I mean, UCLA should be a game Nebraska's favored in, and that's the easiest one. The second easiest one is going to be Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to be at home. It's another opportunity for Nebraska to win because they're going to have the home crowd advantage. Wisconsin is similar in terms of talent as Nebraska. They're in year 2 of their rebuild. They could have won that game last season on the road. I think they match up well. So Wisconsin's going to be the second easiest one. Number 3 would be Iowa. I think Iowa, although it's going to be on the road, I think Nebraska matches up well with them. And because it's a rivalry spot, it usually is a really close game and it could go either way. So I think Iowa's the next. And last is USC. Going on the road against an offense as potent as what Lincoln Riley brings and Nebraska's defense getting exposed the way it did today, I'm very, very concerned about USC. Their offense can be a serious problem. And Nebraska showing that their offense isn't a threat. So although USC's defense is subpar, Nebraska's not going to be able to do enough to them, in my opinion. Not as of right now. Things could change, but right now that's my thinking. Joel, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $10 super chat. What an embarrassment given all the hopes we have for our team. I'm sure we can hit 7 wins, but more than that, I don't know. Yeah, at this point, I could never predict 8 wins right now. No way. I think 7 is really fair, and 7 for a lot of people would be optimistic. After today, you've got to look at this in 2 ways. Number 1, Indiana is elite. They are the Ohio State, the Oregon, the Penn State of the Big Ten. They're cream of the crop. They're one of the best coached and most talented teams with one of the best quarterbacks in the country. That's one way. The other way to look at it as is Nebraska just has this curse and this monkey on their back that they can't get off right now, where they go and play a team in a big-time spot, big-time matchup game like a big noon kickoff or a ranked opponent on the road, and they just don't know how to show up and get amped up for it. And that's holding them back, kind of like what we saw with Illinois, what we saw last year with Michigan. They haven't been able to win in spots like that. So look at it whichever way you want. Either way is Nebraska's not going to have to play many games like this for the rest of the season. The next one, obviously next week, it is going to be like that. But after that, every other game should be, not, I don't want to call it low rating, but games that most people won't be as interested in. And from there, they actually have a chance to win some of them. So I'm still optimistic. Nebraska's going to have a good season. They're hopefully going to reach 7 wins, and I'm going to feel good about their finish. But yeah, it's tough, dude. Getting to the last couple super chats, guys. Hang on, scrolling through chat. Did I get them all? Doug, thank you for the $10. He says, dreaming here, hoping this loss pushes us to make OSU a closer game. Maybe win. All right, Doug, come on. Let's not get crazy. Raiola is to Rule what Adrian is to Frost. I don't believe that. Adrian did great with the right coaches and support at KSU. So here's the thing. Adrian with Frost was a mismanagement of the entire offense, not a mismanagement of the quarterback play. Adrian had some issues that he wasn't able to correct, but the entire team had issues they weren't able to correct. Rule has to get the right coaches in the room to help him because Rule isn't an NFL play caller. He isn't an elite offensive mind. He's primarily a defensive coach, primarily a line coach. So a lot of Rule's success is going to be contingent on who he hires as a coordinator and who he hires to mentor Raiola. Totally different from the Scott Frost situation. Scott Frost was an elite quarterbacks coach with very little skills outside of that, and he had good play calling on offense, obviously. Not at Nebraska, but before Nebraska. But outside of that, Frost was limited in terms of what he could do with the team outside of him. So very different situation. I'm not worried about it. I will be worried about it at the end of the season, though, when Nebraska has to make sure that they're going forward with the right people in the room, and we'll have to see who they have in their coaching staff at that point. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Caden, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. What would you compare the last 10 years of Nebraska football to? I have no idea. It's been a mess, dude. It's been a mess. I don't know what to compare it to. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I don't know what sport you can compare, or what like sports moment you can compare Nebraska to. I don't follow many other sports. It's like, I'm trying to think. There isn't. Nebraska's like the worst of the worst when it comes to downfalls in American sports. I'm sure there are other examples, but Nebraska's pretty freaking bad. Daniel says, more Cope. Connor, Indiana is not that good. That's not true. That's just not. I'm a realist. I watched that game today. We all watched that game today. Indiana's really freaking good. Indiana could go toe-to-toe with Ohio State, and I bet you Indiana will go and keep that a close game. Indiana's well coached. They've got great athletes, and from what we've seen in these first 7 games of the season, they can put up points on anybody. Sure, Nebraska played the worst game they have all season. Nebraska played a lot worse than Northwestern, than Maryland, than all these other teams that Indiana's played, but it doesn't matter. Indiana's a really good football team. Are they a top 10 football team? I don't know. Are they top 15? Shit. Hell yeah, they are. So shout out Indiana again. They're really good. Wise Pine says Indiana's offense is better than OSU and Oregon. Right now, Indiana's offense does look better than Ohio State. I don't know about Oregon. Oregon's got a good offense. Oregon's got a really good offense. But I do think they have right now a more efficient and stronger offense than Ohio State does. 100%. Sopronic says, I quit at half. What did I miss? You missed nothing. Don't worry. Jonathan, thank you for the $5 super chat. I expected this. Oh, well, let's hope for UCLA, GBR. I don't know how you could have expected this. There was nothing before today that would have told me Nebraska was going to lose this game by more than a touchdown. Everything that we've seen from Nebraska so far has been resilience. It's been fight. It's been physically tough. Nebraska's shown they have a decent run game. They have an efficient passing game for 1-2 quarters a game. And it felt like the defense that's been lights out for the last, I guess it's been 12 games, something like that. Been lights out for 12 games. You would have expected them, senior led, to come in here and show out. And they didn't do shit. So no, I don't think anybody can say they expected a Nebraska rout. Now, Jim Coyle came on my show this week, big IU fan, big IU reporter, and he thought IU was going to win this game by 10 plus. And he did predict this game accurately. He thought IU would have no problem scoring and said they'd get into the 30s. And they should have been limited to the 30s, but Nebraska just quit at some point. They quit, they looked like shit, and IU was able to run up the score. But yeah, Indiana's a good football team. I don't know how you could predict this, though. This is a crazy prediction. Alan, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $20 super chat. What did they do over the bye week? Obviously, Indiana was well prepared, and we are not. I feel good about 6 wins. 7 ? So over the bye week, Dylan Raiola went out to Fort Worth, and he trained with his QB coach, Jeff Christensen. And I know that he wanted to get a tune-up, and he wanted to make sure that he was in his best form going forward for the rest of this season, because Nebraska, up to today, was in position to make a run. Nebraska was 5-1. They had 2 back-to-back top 25 games, and the assumption was if they could win this game today, they would be in position to possibly make a run in the Big Ten. Obviously, things didn't pan out that way. Dylan Raiola is an ultra competitor. He's been healthy. He's done everything the right way. His brand is growing at Nebraska right now. And yeah, I just saw he released his new logo. I'm sure he has a big partnership or a deal coming out soon if he's releasing his logo. So he's doing everything to be the star-studded quarterback that Nebraska expected he would be. I don't know what the rest of the team did. I don't know what the coaching staff did. But I do know Dylan Raiola was preparing for this game like this was the turning point in the season. This was a game that Nebraska was going to use as a stepping stool to get to the next level in the next phase. The stepping stool to get Nebraska the next level of recruits that they've been hoping they could flip. So I don't know what the bye week plan was. I don't know what went down over the bye week, but I do know where Raiola was and where his head was at. And Raiola is playing and acting like he's an NFL quarterback. The rest of the team, I don't know. Jonathan, thank you for the $5 super chat. If you look at the beginning of the season prediction, Jonathan's beginning of the season prediction, I was expecting it way back then. We still got this though. 7-5 with the Music City Bowl. Wow. I can't believe you predicted IU in your preseason prediction to beat Nebraska. That's impressive, Jonathan, because I thought this was going to be one of the easiest wins on the schedule. Eric says, do you know why the offense has regressed so much? It seems like every game they have regressed since the Illinois game. I don't know the answer to that. The first thing was Nebraska lost Micah Mazuka. And I felt like, Micah Mazuka's out. That shows the offensive line took a step back. The second thing was they started to get into Big Ten play. Big Ten defenses are much stronger. Big Ten coaches are much smarter. And they're able to go after this younger quarterback, put pressure on him, and make him uncomfortable. But now it feels like it's less about the other teams, and it's more about what's going on in Nebraska's coaching room. What are they not doing right? How are they not helping themselves? Why do they have a few stud athletes, but they're not able to make any plays? They're not able to score. Nebraska has one of the worst red zone offenses, one of the worst scoring offenses. I think they regressed because Nebraska is being outcoached every single week. That's my take. I don't know. Gary says our coach and defensive coordinator were incompetent. I'm so pissed off. I get it. I don't have anything to say to that. I get it. Sean says I'm sick of this rebuild shit. What year 15 of a rebuild? Yeah, look. Nebraska is in a really unique and frustrating situation. They've been a shit show for a long time. They've made the wrong hires over and over and over again, and they set themselves back. I mean, they are so far back compared to where the rest of the Big Ten is. Indiana went from back-to-back-to-back 2- and 3-win seasons, and now 7-0 like that. Nebraska went and hired one of the hottest coaches and best coaches on the market, and yeah, they're not able to compete at that level. It's really hard to hit the lottery. I'm going to put it that way. I said this earlier. Indiana hit the lottery, and most teams don't. So you have to look at the entire country and look at all the schools with a second-year head coach. Wisconsin is in year 2 with Luke Fickell. I think they're 4 or 5-2. They're in the same spot as Nebraska. They don't look great. They're in the same rebuild phase. So Indiana is an anomaly, and not every school is going to get that benefit with having a coach who's a jackpot winner and goes out and brings their entire team over and, swings from the fences in the portal and has a great haul. I mean, Indiana looked like Colorado in terms of portal and how they went out and got so many different players. The difference was they targeted the right players in the portal. They didn't just go and get the flashy names from the big schools. They went and got the guys who were proven winners who've done stuff. And it worked out. So, yeah, it's really tough. I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take Nebraska. I wish I knew the answer because I've been patient. And it's really hard to be a Nebraska fan. I'll just say that. I'm sick of the rebuilds too. Vass says, what do you think of Raiola's 3 interceptions today? One wasn't his fault. Yeah, I mean, he was forced to do everything on his own today. I thought Raiola played relatively well. I don't have many complaints about his play. I would wish to see, or I would like to see him run a little bit more. I think him running a little bit more would help his game. I think it would help to take pressure off of the offensive line because then they wouldn't have straight drop backs to worry about. They'd actually be able to move laterally, and guys on the edges who are rushing in would have to make different moves, and they wouldn't just come straight down and bull rush. So I wish that we would see Raiola run a little bit more. I think it would be a good change of pace, but we won't. He knows his biggest asset's his arm, and he does not want to get hurt. So that's that. From a passing perspective, he had that one interception that was going towards the end zone. He fired it in there on 4th and 8, I think it was. It was a desperation throw. He had no other options, So Raiola isn't Nebraska's problem. Raiola is the least of Nebraska's worries. So I just don't put too much stock in any of his issues, Jonathan, thank you for the $5 super chat. Would you feel a 7-5 team with a bowl game is getting better, or would that be disappointing? No. Before the season, I said at 7-5, getting to a bowl game would be a good thing, and that'd be a positive mark on the season. That would be a growth for Matt Rule after a 5-7 year one. Winning a bowl game obviously would make an exceptional season at 8-5, but just getting 7-5 and getting to a bowl game, that'd be a win. They'd be meeting expectations, so it would be successful. If you can meet expectations in a season, I would call that a success. If your expectations are the exact same every season, I would not call that a success. That's why in the past I've criticized Iowa. Iowa's expectations every season are to go 9-3. I don't believe that's success. If you go 9-3 every season or 7-5 every season and there is no room for growth, that isn't a success. We want to compete for championships. We want to see next year after this one, when the expectation is 7-5, we want to see it be 8 wins or 9 wins. So as long as Nebraska is increasing their expectations, increasing their production, and getting better as we go, that's fantastic. So year 1, 5 wins. There's the mark. Year 2, 7 wins. Great. Next year is going to be an 8-win expectation, though, or a 9-win expectation. So it's about the build, It's about the build. Enigma, do you think we give Haarburg a shot against Ohio State? So here's the thing with Haarburg. Haarburg is one of the best athletes at Nebraska, and we've all thought this for a long time. He's out of position. He needs to be playing somewhere else. A lot of people think he needs to be playing at tight end. I know that he's been looked at by NFL scouts as a tight end, and the problem is Nebraska can't run him at tight end, although he might be one of the best tight ends on the entire team. They can't run him there because they need a backup QB in case something goes wrong with Raiola. Daniel Kalen is nowhere near ready to start in a college football game. Nowhere near ready. I told you that in the beginning of the season. He wouldn't be ready for a few years. He's a project. He had zero chance to play. So if Daniel Kalen cannot play in a Big Ten game, that means you have to have a quarterback with some sort of experience and some sort of readiness. Haarburg is that guy. I think you've got to protect Haarburg as long as you possibly can. And then at the end of this season, you've got to go out and get another quarterback, someone who can play right away, someone who can be the reserve guy that Nebraska has right now with Haarburg, but allow Haarburg then to make a change and go and play a different position. I am of the belief that Haarburg will be Nebraska's starting tight end next year after Fedoni leaves. So Haarburg, yes, I'd love to see him, but Haarburg, no, you can't afford to get him hurt at this point because he's Nebraska's backup plan, and he's their only backup plan. Daniel Kalen cannot play in the Big Ten right now. So, yeah, I love Haarburg. I think Haarburg's awesome. Want to see him play more, but I think you leave Raiola in as long as possible. You don't mix it up too much with Haarburg because you don't want him to get hurt. You've seen how Haarburg plays. He's a run downhill type of guy. He's not going to slide. He's taking hits head on. And after you have so many runs, in the Big Ten, you get worn out. So protect Haarburg. And in the future, we're going to get to see a lot of him because he's a NFL caliber tight end. And Nebraska's going to use him there eventually. Jonathan, thank you for the $5 super chat. Bring back Coach Pelini thoughts. Dude, that's hilarious. He would never come back to Nebraska. He would never be a fit at Nebraska. He's a very interesting coach, and he had his ups and downs, but his time has passed. I don't even know what Bo Pelini's doing anymore. So Dewey says, bring back Mickey as the wide receivers coach. Yeah, I think it's time you go out and you figure out who on the market's hot if you're going to go out and get a new coach. I think Matt Rule's really good at that. He knows how to find guys who fit in. And again, I try to focus in on the team that we have now. There's going to be plenty of time to talk about the future when we get there. And right now, I just don't think they're going to make any changes with coaches. Nahai, thank you for the $10 super chat. IU alum here. Before the game, your coach said IU is a top 10 team. I remember hearing that. IU heard the haven't played this defense yet and haven't played anyone yet. I am fully aware that IU has heard that because that's been the narrative in the national media for the entire season. I still stand by Nebraska goes undefeated after OSU. Nahai, your expectations are crazy. Thinking Nebraska's going to go undefeated after OSU. I have a lot of respect for Indiana, and I think they're a very good team. I think they're a legitimate top 12 team nationally. Okay, I totally hear you on Nebraska played a really good team, and they weren't able to be successful against them because that team was so good. But at the same time, IU had a fight from Maryland. They had a fight from Northwestern, and Nebraska laid down today. And I don't believe Nebraska, the team that we saw today, lay down, can come out and win against USC or Iowa. They're going to be challenging against UCLA and Wisconsin if they play the way they did today. So, yeah, really tough to make that prediction. Ballsy for you to do it, and we'll see if it pans out. But I'm going to go with 2-2 from here on out, and hopefully they get to 3-1. That's my hope. They get to 3-1. Obviously, this is assuming they lose next week at Ohio State. The spot is so bad for Nebraska. Next week, Nebraska's playing Ohio State off a bye. They're going on their second road trip in a row. The hope is that they're going to be inspired. They're going to be, really upset after this loss. They're going to come out and play a lot better, and they're going to be desperate. And so if Nebraska plays desperate and plays a little bit better against Ohio State, maybe that game's more competitive. But the way they played today, it's looking like a 63-7 kind of game. Skurs News, thank you for being a member. Thank you for this $2 super chat. Is the Frost losing mentality still an issue? 1,000%. Nebraska has had this losing mentality now since Mike Riley in 2017. And ever since that last season, they were never able to get back from it. So 2017 till 2024, 7 years, all of their players have been conditioned to believe a certain thing. Oh, shoot. Did my live stream just cut out? Okay, well, I think I'm back. My live stream just cut out on my end, but now it looks like it's running properly. Okay, that was bizarre. Okay, I think we're good. Let me reload my chat, guys, because everything just shut down on my page. Let me see if this works. Okay, we're good. So anyway, Nebraska's losing mentality is where I left off. Yeah, I just think that because you've got 7 years of this losing culture that they haven't been able to overcome, it's going to take however long to get new players and new pieces in. So Matt Rule is trying his best. He's trying to breed a culture that's different from what we've seen before. And yeah, we're just not there yet. I don't know if they're going to have to start from scratch. Like you're going to have to say, we need to get four full recruiting classes in to completely rid ourselves of this losing nonsense. But in my opinion, when you have all of this carryover, right? You have all these players who came from the Frost era. They're now with Matt Rule. The new players are getting conditioned to believe whatever these guys believe because those are the leaders on the team. So I think it's really hard to break that mindset because the younger guys are now looking up to the older guys and the older guys carry themselves a certain way. So the hope is you get enough guys like Rola and Barney, Willis McGahee, all these young dudes, they come in and they can break that. And they're like, we're not going to get conditioned to believe all that nonsense. We're going to bring in our own leadership. You see it with Rola right now. He leads guys out into the tunnel. He's the face of the program. He's trying to set the standard, and he wants everybody, no matter how old they are, no matter how long they've been in the program, to start following his vibe, right? If you get enough guys like Rola in that room who have that energy and that confidence about themselves, don't expect losing, then maybe you'll be able to flip it. But as it is right now, they haven't been able to rid themselves of it because they don't have enough guys like that. That's my take on the culture. So we'll have to see. It's tough. I don't know what it's going to take. I just think it's going to take more recruiting classes, in my opinion. Ryan, I don't know that I agree with this. We have horrible players. I don't agree with that. These athletes are pathetic. Don't agree with that. Get rid of these COVID players. Who is Ty and Nash? Did they even make the trip? Our offensive scheme is so bad. Okay, so they have good players, and they need some more. They have players who are inconsistent. I think that's the right way to say it. At their peak, they're really strong. But because they don't exhibit those qualities week in and week out, it's hard to win consistently, and it pisses us off, you know? So that's it. I don't know. I don't think the players are bad. I think Nebraska has a lot of good players. Don't get me started. Thank you for being a member for 2 years. Being a Nebraska fan is like going back to that same girlfriend over and over in high school. Same girl, same problem, same stupid guy thinking things will be different this time. Yeah, that's the hardest part about being a Nebraska fan. I can control everything in my life. My path in life is this, okay? It's constant growth, and everything I do, it gets better and better and better. I look better every year. I'm healthier every year. My friend group grows. I make more money. Everything in my life just continues to blossom. Being a Nebraska fan, I have to accept that the one thing I love doesn't match my energy. It's matching the energy of the peasant people around me who I would never want to associate with. The losers who struggle to get anything going, who stay in bed all day and don't do shit. They don't try and better themselves. Nebraska feels like that. So I totally understand this analogy because I've talked to my friends about this before. They're like, you need to go and be an Ohio State fan or an Alabama fan. You got to be at a school that matches who you are inside. And I'm like, man, it just sucks that the team who, represents me, they don't represent what I'm doing in my daily life and the way I'm growing in my success and progress, So I get it, dude. I talk about this with my friends. Like it's a little joke, but it is something we talk about. It's fucking tough. Nebraska's the worst part of my world, right? Like everything in my world is constantly getting better and growing. And then Nebraska's this one thing that I'm just trying to drag out from the gutter. I'm like, God damn it, guys, step your shit up. Ralph says last 2 games, Raiola choked a bit. Raiola didn't choke. Raiola's being asked to do too much. He didn't choke. Raiola is literally the entire team. You can't rely on that player to do everything. You need people around him. You need a run game. You need an offensive line. You need receivers. You need good play calling. You need a good scheme. And he doesn't have all of that around him. That's why when people ask me, is he going to transfer eventually? I totally understand that question because, yeah, he is going to transfer eventually if things don't get better. Because Raiola is just like me. His life track is like this. My life track's like this. Raiola's life track is like this. That freaking guy's on his way to being a 500 millionaire, right? Being one of the best quarterbacks in the world. So Raiola's like, I can't, even though I love Nebraska, I can't attach myself to something that I can't carry out of the gutter. He's doing everything he can. So I'm not going to blame Raiola for this. I'm also not saying Raiola is playing out of his mind. He's amazing. I think he's playing well, and I just think he needs a lot more support. But I'm not going to say Raiola's been bad. That's just ridiculous. No one important. Thanks for being a member. He says probably Nebraska's worst loss is the Big Ten Conference Championship game in 2012 versus Wisconsin. Yeah, the reason that it's such a bad loss, because you can compare Nebraska's loss last year to Michigan. You can compare it to this. But the reason that's not as bad is because Michigan was a national champion. Or at least a future national champion and a top 5 team. Maybe they're number 2 at the time. Doesn't matter. The point is today, Nebraska was a close dog. It looked like a game that they were supposed to be able to compete in. The other game, like I talked about earlier, is that 2014 Wisconsin game. That was a really bad loss. The other one you could say is the 2016 Ohio State game. That was a really bad one as well. Nebraska, I'm not sure what the point spread was on that, but 2016 Nebraska got routed in Columbus. So there have been a bunch of games that have just been really tough, man. Wink, thanks for being a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Connor, here's $5 for a beer. Hang in there. You're awesome and your content is great. Thanks for making this a bit less bad. Well, I appreciate the support, Wink. I'm here for obviously entertainment purposes. I'm here today for therapy. I'm here to talk through some things because, yeah, watching the game wasn't fun, but I hope that interacting with the chat and us all hanging out together after is, try to be the bright spot on the day. I'll definitely use your $5 for a drink because I'm going to need one after what I'm dealing with my favorite team. Doug, thank you for the $5 super chat. Do you think that the boosters would have a say in regards to mid-season changes? No, I think middle of the season you gotta defer to the coaches because you don't want to fuck up what's going on in their rooms. You don't want to screw up the vibes, and the wheels could completely fall off if you did that. Nebraska's still competing for 7 wins this year, and that would be a winning season. It would be a good season, so you don't want to go off track too much. They can still get to 7 wins with the coaches in the room. I also feel Raiola is a big fish in a small pond. You know, I'm so sensitive to this and going down this lane because I don't want to create a narrative and I don't want to hype up like Raiola as this superstar QB who could go to Georgia next year, a team who would pay him handsomely and be the starter and go win a national championship, because that's an option for him. So I don't want to go out there and create that narrative, and I just don't want to manifest it, I think is the right way to say it. But 100%, Raiola is a big fish in a small pond. They need more weapons around him. They need better coaches around him. And hopefully it works out. That's all I'm going to say. Because I don't want to go down that lane. I don't even want to think about it. I'm telling you, I'm a big believer in words have power and manifestation, and that's something we could manifest. We start talking about how Raiola would go win a national championship at Georgia, and next thing you know, he's gone. $3 million in the bank account, and he's winning a freaking ring. And Nebraska's back to square one. Vince, thank you for the $5 super chat. Today hurt. We clearly need better coaching. Special teams, IU coaches clearly won today. Listen to Cignetti. He's got the blueprint, plan, and standards. Cignetti is an amazing coach. And yeah, listen to Cignetti's right. They got out-coached. They got out-schemed. They got out-recruited. Nebraska in every way has lost to Indiana this year. And yeah, I'm happy for Indiana. I'll say that. But I'm not. I saw some people trying to say Indiana's not as good as they are. No, Indiana is a really freaking good team. Matthew says he's not a big fish in a small pond. He's a big fish in a big pond that's pretty empty. Thank you, Matthew. That's a fact. He is a big fish in a big pond. Nebraska has all the opportunity. Nebraska could be what IU is today. Nebraska would be even more of a storyline, more of a spectacle if IU was in position like IU, or if Nebraska was in position like IU is. But until they get back to that point, it does feel like a small pond. Nebraska's not a small pond, though. I thank you for the reminder, Matthew. I was talking crazy saying Nebraska isn't a big pond. You're right. It's just an empty pond. Bad bar. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $10 super chat. He says your content helps keep me from smashing my TV in my truck. LOL. I'm glad that I can try and talk you off the edge. It's pretty sick though that you got TV in your truck. At least you get to watch the games. I know some people listen to the games on their radio when they're doing their thing. Crazy you got TV in there. Z guy, thanks for being a member. He said, we knew we needed an option QB, and that's what everyone said. Dylan can run when he needs to. We have seen it twice now where he needed to and didn't. I don't think Nebraska needs an option QB. I think Nebraska has an elite passing QB. They need receivers who can get open, and they need play calls that can get them open. I don't think they need to run the ball. They need better receivers, or they need better play calls to get the receivers open. Nebraska shouldn't have to run. They shouldn't have to be a dual threat team. There are teams around the country. Cam Ward at Miami. Freaking Duke threw for 350 yards today. Shador over at Colorado throws for 300 a game. Nebraska has a quarterback who can do the exact same. He needs receivers and he needs plays that can get that going. Noetic says, I feel bad for Indy considering the Nebraska curse for any team that beats us. Yeah, well, Indiana, I don't know. I think they're going to overcome the curse. They're pretty freaking good. Matthew says they need a star running back who can run the ball. They've got running backs who can run the ball. They just don't have a line that can create the lanes, and they don't have the passing game. They don't have the passing game that can make defenses step back and allow for run lanes. That's a problem. A lot of the same stuff. A lot of people with the comments about Nebraska needs receivers who can get open. A lot of stuff about the coaching. Satterfield needs to go. He's a holdover from the Frost era. He's not a holdover from the Frost era. That whole era needs to be gone. Offensive play calling is a joke lately. Build an offense around your QB and the talent you have. Yeah, he's not a holdover. But I do understand that people need that Satterfield is a guy who might need to be swapped out. That they need to get people in the room who align with what Rule's vision is. And I'm just not sure Rule's vision is to have a scoring offense as bad as what Nebraska's is. If Rule wants to score points, which I'm assuming he does when you've got a 5-star quarterback, then he's going to need to get a coach who can come in here and have an explosive offense. You saw Clemson go and make a big move a couple years ago. They went and got the TCU offensive coordinator. I can't remember his name. Oh, Garrett Riley. They went and got Garrett Riley. And it took time, but now Clemson has a really explosive offense. Hopefully Nebraska, they can go and get an OC like that if that's what's needed. Again, I'm not an evaluator of coaching talent, but I see when things aren't going right, and right now things aren't going well. Doug, thank you for the $5 super chat. We will win big with Raiola. There is your vibe and manifestation. Let's do this and start this trend. Also, better put regarding to the pond. Yeah, it's a big pond. Nebraska has a massive opportunity to be successful. These coaches know what the opportunity is. You saw what Nebraska could be in week 3 against Colorado and how exciting and electric it was. I mean, Nebraska at least peaked in terms of the last 8 years in that Colorado game that I went out to. What was that, a month and a half ago? So we've seen what Nebraska can be. Just frustrates us when we see glimpses of it and we're like, damn, they're really close. Why can't they just be more consistent and do this later in the season as well? K-Spec makes a good point. Miami has a good running game, at least. It's respectable. We do not. That's part of what makes Cam Ward so good. They have a respectable run game, takes pressure off him. Ardwin, thanks for being a member. He says, we have the backs and receivers, but we do not have the scheme. We're all aligned, brother. Shifty, thanks for being a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I know I might be in the minority, but I can't help but feel happy for Indiana. It's cool to see them succeed like this. GBR on to next week. Hey, so on this stream, I'm Nebraska first always, right? But when this stream ends and when I go and watch and reflect on the entire day of college football, I'll be very happy for Indiana. And I'll be appreciative that that Kirk Sadetti was able to turn that program around, because it's good for the sport when teams like Indiana are good. So I'm with you, Shifty. It's awesome that Indiana was able to have the turnaround they are. It sucks that it was at Nebraska's expense, and it sucks that I can't enjoy what they're enjoying right now. But for college football's sake, the sport I love, and the thing that is first and foremost, because without college football as a whole, you don't have the joy that Nebraska can bring either. I'm glad that IU is where they are. Will says, how can Indiana go from 3-9 the previous year to what they are now? Meanwhile, Nebraska can't do anything right. Is it just bad coaching, or are we really just cursed? So we talked about this earlier, Will. It's very simple. Indiana has an elite coach, okay? He's been a winner everywhere he's gone. He has a great culture. He was able to bring in players from JMU where he won before. He was able to bring in players from around the country at other schools who had winning backgrounds. When you go and get a bunch of transfer portal players with winning backgrounds, you're not just starting something new. You're picking up where they left off. All of these players coming together, pieced from these different places, were able to come in and pick up where they all left off. Curtis Rourke, Miles Cross, both came from Ohio. Winning program, back-to-back 10-win seasons. Curtis Rourke playing lights out like a Heisman caliber quarterback. Then you go to the James Madison players. They got 12 or 13 of them. 7 or 8 of them are starting. All of them came from an 11-win James Madison team. The expectation for all of them has been extremely high. So when they come to Indiana, like I said, they pick up where they left off. And it's a totally different vibe than Nebraska, where you're trying to keep all of the players on your current roster and make sure those guys are getting developed into a new type of player that they've never been challenged to be. Matt Rule has a different challenge he's facing, and because of that, the rebuild is going to be longer for Nebraska than it will be for a place like IU. That's the easiest and most simple way to put it. K-Spec, Nebraska needs to go with strictly a 2-minute hurry-up offense, get the ball out quick. That's our only hope for the offense here on out. I don't know what they need to do. I'm not an offensive specialist, so they got to do something. They got to change something. I don't know what it is. Rule back Satterfield. He also put stock in Sims. He's also responsible for Ed Foley. I'm starting to think he's a fraud. I don't think he's a fraud. I think Rule's a really good coach, and I think he's going to get it figured out. I think he trusted that Satterfield, because he was a coach who Rule had a lot of respect for, he trusted that he could come in and fix things. And for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. But that's kind of the name of the game. And he's going to go and find, if he does come to this conclusion, he's going to go and find a coordinator who better suits what Rule's visions are. I don't know what the vibe is from Rule now on him. And I'm sure Rule's going to be very positive about his coaching staff up until the final hour. You know, he's going to stick by them. And then when time comes for a change, then he'll say we moved on and done something different. But up to this point and for the rest of these games, I'm assuming he's going to stand by his entire coaching staff. That's my guess. The other Dave, thank you for the 756. That is all, frowny face. If you guys were here last night for my live stream, Dave threw me a super chat that said 27-24, and he said, this is my score prediction for Nebraska in tip form. And now today he's dropping the tip with the actual final score. Painful. Well, Dave, thanks for being back for the live stream, back-to-back nights. Jonathan, Thank you for the $5 super chat. We're cursed. My wife has said she won't cheer until we get to a bowl game. Haven't been since we got married. Need to convince her to remove the curse. Honestly, I understand her. I get it. I don't think she should cheer until they get to a bowl game. There's no reason we should wrap her up in our nonsense. There's no reason we should get her involved in the drama. It's too painful for us. So why would we want to add another member in? You know what I mean? Let's let her sit on the sidelines and enjoy whatever she enjoys. And then when it's the right time for her to dip her toes in, she can come in and enjoy it. I'll tell you what, she'll never appreciate the wins like you and I will, Jonathan. You and I are going to appreciate the wins because we felt the dagger of every single loss. And when a win comes, it feels so much better. Go back to what it felt like when Nebraska beat Colorado last year, or last month. When they beat Colorado last month, how fulfilling and how good did it feel? I mean, I was watching every single angle of that stadium that day after I got back home from that game, and I was watching all the clips online I could find. I was like, man, this feels so good. I was soaking in it, embracing it, and I thought, it feels so good because I dealt with so much nonsense for the last 8 seasons. So she can come in, she can cheer once they hit a bowl game. She won't understand the feeling you have, though. I'll be the first one to cry if Nebraska was to get to a national championship, right? And there are a lot of people who tap out and they won't ever feel that emotion I feel because I've been so emotionally tied to this team for so long. So that's the only downside with not cheering when they're shitty. You don't get the high at the very end. It's like this. If you cheer when we're down here, then the rise back up to the very top is going to bring out so much emotion, you won't be able to handle it. You're just going to explode. That's how I feel. You guys have seen me in crazy states. You've seen me when I'm shaking, when I'm rambling, when I'm ranting, when I'm upset, when I'm borderline crying. I mean, you've seen me in every single state. Before the Illinois game, I was borderline tears, I told you, in the back of my Uber coming back to watch that game. And I was so emotional because of all of the things I felt about this Nebraska team over the years, you know? So anyway, a little rant about why it's important to cheer for Nebraska when they're on the decline, so it feels better when they're on the rise. Shifty, thanks for being a member. He says, it would be a mistake to fire any coaches before the end of the season. I think we need to stick it out, and then it might be time to make some adjustments. I agree with you 100%, brother. You can't throw things off too much in the middle of the season because you can't make that many changes. There's nothing that's going to change if you got rid of a coach in the middle. David, thanks for being a member. He says, not sure Tony White's gone after this year. I think with some of these results, we have another year with him. That's something a lot of people think. Maybe Tony White comes back for one more. I think it's still too early to know. But I think there's a possibility. We'll have to see. Yeah. They've got to refine some things, and they need to reload on defense because if Tony White's going to continue to find success on that side of the ball, they're going to have to figure some things out because I know he's a really good coach, and people aren't making comments about his coaching, but there's something going on because they were out of position today. They missed a lot of tackles today. They got dominated on the line of scrimmage today. I mean, defense had some issues. K-Spec, Rola is best in our current offense with a 2-minute. Let him read the defense and make the call from the line of scrimmage. At this point, I trust his play calling more than Sats. You know, it's a big disrespect if Matt Rule was going to go that route to his offensive coordinator, so I don't think he would, but I hear you. I just think it's tough to allow a 19-year-old kid to run your offense when you're making $9 million a year. You've got to, I don't know. I don't think Rule will be doing that. Dash Cammer, thank you for being a member. Head coaches need to hire and fire based on what they need and on how their hires perform. If your hire sucks, fire them. And I think that's kind of our point this season. Which coaches are underperforming and which ones don't live up to what the expectations are for them? All of these guys have metrics they need to hit in Rule's eyes. They all have performance lines, right? And you've got to hit that line. If you aren't hitting it, it's time to get the hell out. There are some coaches who are under fire right now. And at the end of this season, we're going to see if Rule has the stones to make a change. Michael says 6 chances to get one more win to at least get bold. To at least end the bowl drought. Let's see if they can get one more. I think they can get one more. I'm very confident in that. I think Nebraska's fighting for 2. You know what I mean? Fighting for 2 more. Jack says, how much more money is it going to take to turn this around? It's going to take the right guys getting the money, you know, getting the right people in place, getting the right players. Nebraska's roster is like $15 million right now. So yeah, they need a little bit more money. Maybe get it up to 20 million like Ohio State. I think Ohio State's probably at like 22 million. But yeah, money-wise, they've got a lot there. They're invested a lot. It's about giving the money to the right people. How did they not prepare for this team? What happened? They did prepare for this team. They got out coached. They got worked in every phase of the game. And yeah, Josh says the same. How the hell do we have 2 weeks to prepare and we show up on the biggest stage yet and F it up royally? How are they not prepared? They're not prepared because, like what Michael says, thank you for being a member, Michael. He says, man, Indiana looks like a top 5 team. That's why they're not prepared, because Indiana's far and away the best team they've played this season. So Nebraska came out and they thought they were going to play a team who was on their level, and they weren't. Indiana dominated at every freaking level. High Mountain Guy, thanks for being a member. He says, if money equaled winning, Nebraska would be winning. It's deeper than that. It's paying the right people. That's the bottom line. Money is everything, but money does not equal winning. You got to pay the right guys. Scott Frost got paid a lot of money, but he was the wrong guy who got paid, right? You see that in the NFL all the time. The wrong quarterback gets paid. Daniel Jones, and now the Giants are set back because they paid the wrong guy. Nebraska's made some bad hires. They've made some bad decisions, and because of that, they set themselves back. They're fixing all of it, but again, it's rebuild year 2. Got to grow, you know? The Barney blunder kind of signaled how this game was going to go very early in the game. Those signals proved to be true. Yeah, I felt like that game, or that play, set the tone for the game, and I thought it's going to be really hard for Nebraska to win if they're setting the tone like this. That was just irresponsible on his part. Freshman mistake. Shifty, thanks for being a member. Thanks for the $2 super chat. He says, I will never quit on Nebraska. All in on the Big Red. I'm with you, brother. I will never quit on Nebraska either. It's just tough to watch, you know? It's tough to deal with, and a lot of people in the chat all feel the same way. It's tough. Fred says, the OC, the offensive line coach, special teams coach, are just a few off the top of my head that need a performance evaluation. I agree, brother. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat, guys. This is how we come out to play, or this is how we come out every game when we play against a good opponent. They're trying to break the curse. They just haven't been able to yet, unfortunately. Every time Nebraska plays a good team, it's like they're shell-shocked. They walk in and they get all tight and tense. I'm sure in Rhule's presser, he's going to say something like, oh, we need to come out and play loose. The guys were too tight. It's like, well, Rhule, how do you get them to play loose? Why are they so damn tight? I wish I knew the answer. It's freaking tough. No one important. He says, it hurts that one main reason we're here today is because we fired multiple consistent winning head coaches. Yeah, but they were head coaches who they didn't think would turn the corner, and Nebraska had higher expectations. They wanted to see growth. Bo Pelini got stagnant and stale. And if Bo Pelini wouldn't have gotten stagnant and stale, he wouldn't have lost his job, you know? Serial says, didn't pay attention too much after the first half, but I'm curious to see the PFF grades on the O-line. It seems like we had pressure the entire game. Yeah, the O-line, they all looked pretty bad today. So I'm going to guess they have pretty low ratings. I don't know, but I'm going to guess they got some low ones. Even Mazuka came in, and it didn't help anything. They put Mazuka in, I think, on like the 3rd or 4th drive. Did not work. Vince says, we didn't give up a rushing touchdown this season until today. I loved watching Ty say that they don't get in this week on YouTube. But 5 rushing touchdowns today, WTF. I didn't see him say that, but yeah. That's why someone earlier in the chat, like an hour ago, said Ty's eating his words. Yeah, they don't get in. They got in 5 times. Insane. And they didn't get in on short yardage deals. They got in on long-ass runs, which was embarrassing. Luke Luigi, he says, I was trying to hold back my excitement last night listening to your last-minute thoughts before the game. I was genuinely thinking Rhule knew something that we didn't. I did too. I'll tell you what, I was pumped last night. You guys watched my live stream? I was just like so dialed in and so of the belief that Nebraska would come in and play the best they've played all season. They had the bye week to prepare. Rola got out of town and went and worked with his mentor. The whole team knew what was at stake. The defense that's looked so good all season. Why would I expect anything less than a fantastic performance out of them? Pair that all with this being a huge game for IU, and in my eyes, them being a little bit overrated, and it seemed like the perfect storm. Nebraska's going to come out here and kick some ass. I can't believe I was so wrong. Like I'm shocked that I was so wrong. Like I said, I hammered. It was one of my biggest bets of the whole year. Nebraska money line, Nebraska spread. And I'm so lucky because right before the game, I went and hammered Raiola over 225 passing yards. It almost didn't hit. He got to 234, thank God. But I would have been struggling today if I didn't hit that over on his pass yards. So shout out to Raiola for coming through. That was massive for me. Seriously, massive. Um, Noah said, I want to see Haarburg play against Ohio State. Let Raiola mentally reset and get healthy before UCLA. Go Big Red. It would. We saw Haarburg play last year, and the way his style is so limiting, and with a team like Ohio State who can force turnovers, I think that would be a bad idea, personally. Personally. Sports says Gabe Irvin's the only dude powerful enough to get past the O-line. Gabe did come in and have a good run today where he looked strong. He didn't have a lot of yards. I think he only had like 3 yards or something, but he did look strong. RJ, thanks for the $2 super chat. Are we regressing? I thought we'd be tightened up. Yeah, they're regressing a little bit. They're also playing better competition. Your competition goes up, you start to play worse, and you have the worst game of the season. That's kind of what we were witnessing today. I don't know that this is regression to the point where they're going to do what they did last season, where literally everything just wheels fell off. They couldn't win a game to save their lives at the end. I don't think it's going to get that bad, but yeah, it's not a good look right now. Thanks for the $2 super chat, Brandon. He says, did we ever have a chance to hire Signetti? 1,000% they had a chance to hire Signetti, but it would have never happened. Like, they never were even thinking about it. He was at JMU when Nebraska got Matt Rule. He was at JMU off of an 8-3 season, I believe. So they would have never hired Signetti at 8-3. The reason Signetti became a hot name is because last season he won 11 games at JMU. And then everyone's like, oh, wow, we got to go get Signetti. And then IU obviously pulled the trigger. And it was a massive hire for them. Hit the lottery. Let's see what this is. Cademan says, almost every Husker fan was saying that Indiana wasn't proven and that they were overrated. But after this, I'm afraid that is what we are in reality. Yeah, we're not proven at all, and they were a little bit overrated. Nebraska, I don't know, Nebraska was fairly rated in my opinion. Now, after today, it feels like they're a little overrated, but going into today, they were fairly rated. Isaac says, y'all said you were back after beating UTEP and UNI. Get the fuck out of here. No, Nebraska fans didn't say that. The national media said that. National media was the one who was hyping Nebraska up. You're a little confused, Isaac. Nebraska fans were excited and optimistic, but no one said Nebraska was back. Alex says, forced turnovers. Didn't Raiola throw a few interceptions today? I shut it off after the first quarter to watch sisters' volleyball games. Well, I'm happy that you shut it off because you didn't miss much, brother. Yeah, Nebraska didn't force any turnovers today. That was abysmal from a turnover perspective. Nebraska lost 2 turnovers through 3. Jesus, they were -5 in turnovers today. No wonder the score got out of hand. Doug, thanks for the $5 super chat. Don't like how we kept running up the middle 85% of the time. Up the middle, 85% of the runs seem like running backs are unable to bump out when the hole is not there. Patience and vision is needed. Yeah, patience is needed 100%. Vision is needed 100%. And I think there are a lot of issues with the run game. And I don't know how much of it is on the running backs because they've tried 4 different running backs. Is it that the running backs are all mediocre? Or is it that the scheme or the blocking in front of them isn't allowing them to become successful? Luke Luigi, thanks for being a member, says Tommy gave up a TD to Illinois early, and that was the cause of that massive run early by Indiana. If he's not healthy, why risk him being a liability? Our staff's a clown show. No one knows what to do. I didn't notice what was going on with Tommy today. I did see him get beat on one play to the outside. That was frustrating, but I didn't see him lagging or looking slow. But who knows? Maybe I missed something that you saw. Lawrence says this probably won't happen this year, but how insane would it be if Indiana goes all the way and wins the national championship? College football is wild. Yeah, Indiana right now looks like they could go to a playoff. I mean, they have Michigan at home. They have Ohio State on the road. Those will be really tough. But if Indiana does make the playoff, they could make a run, which is crazy. College football is awesome, and it's the best sport because of that. Anything can happen. Parity is real, and I love seeing different teams win. I just really wish my team would freaking win. It's tough. Biggs. The offensive line is really weak. They can't run block or pass block. Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah. Everybody on the line has to be held accountable for what happened today. Bryce Benhart's their best offensive lineman, and he got rocked today. So, yeah, tough. Silence says the play that he got burnt, after that he was fine, or they had Sierra out there. Talking about Tommy Hill. Christ says, don't you think the O-line coach would be fired if he wasn't the uncle of Dylan? No, I think that Nebraska improved offensively last year, on the line at least, and they were able to recruit some good guys with his help. So I don't think he was going to get fired. I'm not sure how much of it is a personnel issue and how much of it's an O-line coach issue. I think there's a lot to do with the offense from a bigger picture point of view than just the offensive line coaching. There's a lot of issues at Nebraska right now, man. There's a lot. But anyway, I'm going to go watch football. It's been an hour and a half with you guys. I've had a great time. It's unfortunate that Nebraska lost the way they did, and it's unfortunate that, we had higher expectations today and they weren't met. It's really exciting that Nebraska still has opportunity to get to 7, maybe even 8 wins this year, and I'm happy that that's going to meet our preseason expectations, which are the only ones that I can judge this season off of, because I'm not going to reset expectations after seeing a few games early on against really weak opponents, right? I'm going to still sit here and say, this is what I thought was going to happen. I'm going to stick to that. And if they get to that number, I'm going to be over the moon. So right now, Nebraska's in position to finish 7-5, 8-4, get to a bowl game. And most importantly, that means they're going to make progress, right? We're in rebuild mode. Matt Rule didn't bring in a bunch of transfers. He's trying to build from the high school ranks. They've got a lot of young guys. You saw a mistake from Ja'Cory Barney today that was a prime example. And hopefully things get worked out going forward so we have some more enjoyable moments to, get excited about and talk about on our live streams after all of these games. We'll have to see what happens with Ohio State next week. I don't know if I'm too optimistic for that one. I'm sure the point spread will be something like 24-28, something crazy. But hopefully the team comes out healthy, and we'll talk more this week. But until next time, thank you all for your support. It means a ton to me. All the super chats, all the comments, all the views, everything to help drive our channel and make this something I can do the entire season. It means a lot. And until next time, I guess that's really it. I already said thanks for being here. So go Big Red.